Greetings again, Faith Lutheran Confirmands. This is Lesson 12 in our workbook series looking at the history of the Holy Bible. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about King Solomon and the building of the temple in Jerusalem. Last week, as you remember, we talked about King David and how he reigned over God's people. And throughout the course of his reign, by all manners, David was a tremendous success for God's people. He remained faithful where King Saul, as we recall, would often fall away or doubt the Lord or seek after worldly things. Even though King David did sin and he did slip up, still he remained faithful, and the Lord rewarded that faith. One thing that King David earnestly sought to do throughout his reign was to bring the ark and the place of worship into the holy city of Jerusalem. For these two things were separate during his reign. But though David was richly blessed, the Lord had decided that this honor would go not to King David, but to his son, King Solomon. As King Solomon grew and matured, he prayed to the Lord for great wisdom, and the Lord granted him that. Likewise, the Lord granted Solomon many riches, far beyond that of any worldly king. And so when it came time for Solomon to build this temple, he spared no expense. The finest wood, the greatest craftsmen, beautiful gold trim, and everything else that you could imagine went into this great place of worship. For this was the place where historically God had dwelled with his people. Throughout their wandering in the wilderness, the people of Israel would erect and tear down a tent known as the tabernacle. And it was in this tabernacle that the altar of sacrifice was placed, as well as the Ark of the Covenant, which contained the Ten Commandments. In these ways, through sacrifice and through the law, the people knew that God dwelled with them. So when King Solomon erected this magnificent and beautiful temple, he did so knowing that this would be the dwelling place of God with Israel. Now fast forward to the coming of Jesus, who said that the temple of the Lord, his dwelling place, is not in any temple made by hands. The people of Jesus' day were rather confused at what he meant, because after the Temple of Solomon, which was eventually torn down, and then the second temple, which was built and then refurbished by King Herod, the people of Israel were pretty well set in the idea that there was one specific place on earth in which God came to be with man. However, when Jesus said that the temple is not in a place built by hands, but rather God had something bigger in mind, what he was talking about was his actual dwelling with us in the person and work of his only begotten Son. Jesus, in other words, was talking about Jesus. Jesus is the way in which God dwells with us today. Now, certainly, the law is still good and wise. The temple, though there are many temples, many churches, many congregations all across the world, is still the place in which we congregate. The place that we experience God is wherever the name of his Son is preached, taught, and confessed. So, whether it's at home during Bible study or devotion with your family, or whether it is for Sunday service here at Faith, God's temple is where Jesus is. Now, in your workbooks, you're going to see a diagram that looks at three pillars as well as a cornerstone of a temple. As you fill this in, I want you to think about the ways in which God dwells with us through his church today. For the cornerstone, and this is me giving you a little bit of a freebie, we know that Christ is at the corner, the center of the church. What are the gifts that Christ gives in the church to let us know that he is with us? These are those pillars that you see in your workbook. I want you to think about this and pray about this as you do your lesson and as you talk with your parents this week. When we get together for discussion, we are going to talk about the modern temple of the Lord and how he is experienced, how he comes to us with his gifts in the church. So, as you prepare to gather together, keep these things in mind. That God is not far removed from us today because Christ has ascended, but rather he still comes to us in the here and now. And for that we are richly blessed. Confirmands, we will see you Sunday, and God's peace to you. Blessings.